What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get the notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, please do me a favor and yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, that does help to give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, I want to take a quick moment to discuss how recently at a speaking engagement, JD Vance once again ripped to shreds Kamala Harris on her flip-flopping. Now, I know for some people this might seem like a moot point. We talk about this all the time. Okay, yeah, man, we get it. Kamala Harris is a flip-flopper, but this isn't something that should be allowed to go away, especially when you're running for president of the United States. You cannot change your positions. Virtually every position that you stood on to the degree that Kamala Harris has, and let people think that this is okay for someone to just walk away with and never have to explain themselves. Even when giving a softball interview on CNN, where the woman giving you the interview, Dana Bash, is even coaching you into the answers. And while coaching you into your answer, you still fail the test. Meanwhile, when she gave that same test to JD Vance, she was extremely aggressive towards him. I want to play you a quick video clip, and it's only about a minute long, of a 3-minute a montage, you could call it, of a compare and contrast between Dana Bash interviewing JD Vance and then interviewing Kamala Harris. I want you to see how aggressive Miss Bash was towards JD Vance versus how she was towards Kamala Harris, where she's literally coaching Kamala into her answers, yet Kamala still once again managed to fail the test. Let's get into this very quickly.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Senator.
Thank you.
You guys seem to be struggling a little bit with how to approach the new dynamic. Madam Vice President, Governor Walz, thank you so much for sitting down with me and bringing the bus. The bus tour is well underway here in Georgia. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Dana, if you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about policy
positions
versus
about what they're.
So I'm very clear about where I stand.
And was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now? There's no evidence that Kamala Harris threw him overboard, but I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Just stop right there. That's a tactic. That's a disingenuous tactic that's used where you make your final statement, which is a negative towards the person you're speaking to, but then you want to quickly change the subject so that they don't have an opportunity to respond. That's what she just did to JD Vance. But I want to move backwards just a little bit, and she's going to do it again at the end of this video. Listen to how she was coaching Kamala Harris into how to answer her flip-flopping. I want you to listen to that again. And once again, Kamala Harris still failed the test miserably. Very pathetic.
Policy positions about what they're.
So I'm very clear about where I stand.
And was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now?
Was there some policy or scientific data that you looked at where you said, okay, I get it now? And what Kamala Harris was supposed to do is say yes, and here it is. But she didn't do that because, she's pathetic.
There's no evidence that Kamala Harris threw him overboard, but I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird. How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience?
Here goes the coaching again.
Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary?
And she still failed the test miserably. This is why I feel so strongly about Kamala Harris's flip-flopping and wanting to continuously hammer this point home. I want to hammer this point home because you can't be that incompetent to where you've been given a script on how to answer these questions. Not only do you have a script and your notes and your cheat sheet, but in the midst of having a script, a note, and cheat sheets simultaneously, the teacher, if we're continuing on with this metaphor, while giving you the test, is coaching you into your answers, and you still get the answers wrong. How you can vote somebody like this to be president is beyond me. Let's get into what JD Vance had to say now at his recent speaking engagement concerning the flip-flopping of Kamala Harris.
Now, JD, I noticed we don't have any teleprompters here for you tonight. It's a little just off the cuff, taking questions, and also questions from the audience. What do you make of it? How strange and bizarre it is. Kamala Harris has gone 40 plus days without taking a serious interview by herself or a press conference. What do you make of that?
You know, look, I mean, she's terrified of the media because she's terrified of the American people, because she knows that if she speaks off the cuff, she's going to let them know just how completely radical she is. I mean, look, Kamala Harris, her entire campaign, think about this, she's trying to run away from every position that she had 3.5 years ago. Wanted to defund the police, now she says she doesn't. She wanted to ban fracking, now she says she doesn't. She was the border czar who opened the American southern border, but now all of a sudden she says she believes in border security. I joke with President Trump that she's going to show up at a rally one day with a long red tie and the slogan, "Make America Great Again," because that's what Kamala Harris is doing. But we cannot let the American people forget how radical she is. She is exactly what she said she was. She is exactly what she has governed as. And the reason why she only talks to the American people with a teleprompter sitting in between them is because she knows the American people can smell a fraud, and she is a fraud, and we have to remind people of it.
And she's 100% a fraud. She's a fraud on every level. As we discussed in, I believe it was yesterday's video, even when it just comes to speaking with crowds, she puts on this black scent on and off, this Southern preacher, Baptist black scent, where she's talking complete foolishness and outside of the norm of how she typically talks. Let's just watch this very quickly, just really for comic relief for me, because I think it's hilarious, at the same time, highly disrespectful.
Our nation has benefited from that work. You know, everywhere I go, I tell people, you may not be a union member, but you better thank unions for that 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
You better thank a union member. You better thank her. This woman is a fraud. I mean, it is unbelievable how fake and phony Kamala Harris actually is. It is beyond unbelievable. Let me take a moment to pull up some of her flip-flopping policy, fraudulent nonsense right now on the screen. Give me just a second. And I want to pull this up for you right now. And I want to go through a couple of points. Okay. I want to go through a couple of points. So this should be on the screen right now, and we should all be viewing this together. And what I'm going to do is zoom in just a little bit so that we can read it together. And I'll leave the link to this article in the description box below as well, so you can read this in its entirety in full. Now, this portion isn't highlighted, and it should be, but it reads, support for a mandatory buyback program. A campaign official told Fox News that Harris is no longer, I repeat, no longer supporting a mandatory buyback program for AR-15s and similar guns while running for president in 2019. She said, and I quote, she said, "We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program at a forum in Las Vegas." That's one flip-flop. A ban on fracking, despite saying during her previous presidential bid, "There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." The vice president has now walked back on that position. Single-payer system. Harris campaign officials confirmed July she has also changed her stance on healthcare system policies. Previously, she supported single-payer system. That is no longer the case. Now, I'll throw you all a bone. For all of the Kamala Harris apologists, this is a little bit in the gray area here. So if you want a chance at fighting this video, I'll throw you all a bone here, right? In 2019, Harris was one of a handful of Democrats who said they wouldn't rule out expanding the court, according to Politico. During Trump's presidency, conservatives gained a large advantage in the court, causing concerns for liberal lawmakers. She said then, and I quote, "We are on the verge of a crisis of confidence in the Supreme Court. We have to take this challenge head on, and everything is on the table to do that." Now, what do you think she meant by everything is on the table to do that? I think she meant expanding the Supreme Court. But once again, that's a little gray area portion for, apologists to bite on that bone and have a fighting chance, once again, of defending, your girl Kamala. This portion continues to read now, however, she has stated she is not in favor of expanding the Supreme Court. The next portion reads federal jobs guarantees. Harris no longer, go figure, supports a federal job guarantee, an idea championed by some on the left and Green New Deal proponents that gained traction among Democrats during the 2020 election cycle. A spokesperson for Harris's campaign confirmed the position change exclusively to the Washington Examiner. And I know I'm reading the Washington Examiner, so that's a right-wing extremist propaganda nonsense that I'm reading from right now. And you all know me. I'm not a real person. I'm a Russian bot powered by artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, programmed to trick Black Americans into voting for Donald Trump by pushing misinformation on YouTube. So in case I'm not a trustworthy source and the Washington Examiner is not a trustworthy source, I'll let Dana Bash, excuse me. I don't want to engage in hate speech by mispronouncing her name. I'll let Dana Bash from CNN tell you the same thing that I told you, that the Washington Examiner is telling you, and that JD Vance told you, but we're all pushing misinformation. Let's let Dana Bash tell you.
Primary, the vice president praised the defund the police movement, and now she says she doesn't support defunding the police. She called for decriminalizing crossing the border illegally. Now she supports President Biden's policies for clamping down at the border. She supported Medicare for all at one point, eliminating private insurance, and her campaign says she doesn't support that now. She's reversed herself on a fracking ban. What do you think that voters should think when she's reversed herself on several issues just in the last 4 years?
Voters should think that she's a fraud, because that is exactly who she is. There's no way to cover that up. There's no way to mask it. There's no way to talk around it. Kamala Harris is a phony fraud. She always has been and always will be. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video out on your social media platforms. And also don't forget to follow me on Telegram and Rumble. That is extremely important that you follow me on Telegram and Rumble. Both the Telegram and Rumble link are in the description box below and will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. And until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.